when I'm in class, it doesn't feel like 3 hours, like it feels like 10 minutes.
I feel like I just wouldn't have the same draw towards art if I didn't have my dyslexia, because maybe I wouldn't be as creative or as inclined to be an artist if I didn't have it.
I am both. So like I make art and a bunch of different mediums, and I also am dyslexic. So at the end of the day, I guess I am a dyslexic artist.
Hi, I'm Ray.
Hi, I'm Ben.
This is Day by Day.
Ray and I both have disabilities, and that's actually how we came together to make this film. We worked with the Student Accessibility Services at Tufts, who put out a call for students with disabilities to make a film about artists at Tufts with disabilities. And we decided that we wanted to make a film that really encapsulated the viewpoints and the individual perspectives of students with disabilities, but also showcasing their art in the process and showing how art can influence disability and disability can influence art.
I had an incident in my athletics class. The concussion changed a lot of things too. I was originally going to be a science major, majoring in bio and maybe chemistry, and when I hit my head, that I lost processing abilities too. I was taken out of a lot of my science, a lot of my language courses, and put into art classes because I hadn't filled up that requirement yet in high school. And that's when my teachers said, you know, you're decent at this, you should try this. And so it's a little weird, and so I'm kind of thankful for my accident that got me here.
Bipolar disorder has given me an immense level of creativity that otherwise I might not have had. As somebody who's medicated and has been stable for years, since I was diagnosed at 13, I'm able to manage the highs and the lows. And as a result, through those highs and lows, I'm actually able to see the world through more of a prism of that's clear, but has different colors. I like to call it a kaleidoscope. And it allows me to see everyday events in a much sharper and sometimes more vivid way. And that allows me to use that for my creative endeavors, which are writing and filmmaking.
I had played piano when I was little, and then I played drums through high school, and I wanted to, I don't know, most of the music that I liked had guitar in it, and I wanted to be able to create music like that. And when you only play drums, it's like there's only so much you can do by yourself, because no one wants to listen to just like an album full of drum beats. Like you kind of want to have a little something more there. So I learned bass and then guitar.
I work in a bunch of different media. I'm a film and media studies major, so I make films, but I also draw. I used to write a lot. I do so less now just because I don't really have time, unfortunately, because of college. I paint a little, you name it, I've done it. Most of what I'm doing right now is filmmaking, and I think the way my disability has affected that is I've learned a long time ago that you can't really rely on other people that much for a lot of things. So like I'm very used to kind of having to do everything myself, just because I know that no one else really understands what's happening in my body or like how I'm feeling. So my two options are either to ask people for stuff all the time, be like, can you pick that up? Can you do this for me? And I really don't like doing that. So I've just set up a lot of things where I can make a whole film myself if I have to.
When I was younger, I used to write a lot. And I wrote like a book when I was a kid, so.
Could you actually tell me a bit about the process of writing a book as someone with dyslexia?
It started off the same as a lot of books start off with an idea, and then I kind of storyboarded my idea off of that. So I decided basically the major events of what the book would be. The only difference is how much, I can't really edit it myself because I won't catch my mistakes. So I can read over a paragraph or like the entire book, and I wouldn't catch any spelling mistakes. It affected me because it made my outlet of expression making art instead of writing it down. I did a portrait of me, and then in the background I did like a bright color because I chose like a pink. And like, because to me my disability doesn't take anything away from me. Like I've always been brought up that this is like a good thing. It makes me more creative. I see the world in different ways. Like it was a bright color for me because I think that it's something that's special about me. And then in the background, I like wrote instances of like, and just like, not like fun things about kind of like what it is for me to like be dyslexic, and like kind of like some ironies to like what people traditionally think of dyslexia and like how it is in like my life.
Since I play electric guitar, I can play through headphones or with the amp off, so it's a little quieter, and just kind of like try to express myself or calm down or whatever it is that I'm turning to music for. I definitely try to use music as a way to express how I'm feeling, and that how I'm feeling is often impacted by disability and by society's perception of disability. So when I'm feeling really angry, I'll try to turn that into angry sounding music, or at least, well, I don't know, sometimes I want to make music that's angry, sometimes I want to make music that helps me calm down. So it kind of depends on what I'm going for, but like, it's just a very easy way for me to try to turn emotions into something productive, I guess. I did make one album which I called Broken Princess Daydreams because it would have the same initials as borderline personality disorder, and that was at a time when I was kind of struggling a lot with that diagnosis and the symptoms associated with it, and was really trying to capture the different feelings that came up for me during that time period.
So just playing the guitar sounds like this. If I add in the overdrive, I can get more of a
Cool.
sound. The purple one's a little heavier, and then the black one's a little heavier.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm going to kind of build up several parts here because
Sure.
that's how I make a lot of my songs, is just kind of starting with one like idea and gradually building off of that.
Yeah,
and
that sounds great.
So I'll try and go for a general mood.
Perfect.
And see what we get. So.
Perfect.
With people who have special needs, it's so rewarding if they're given that space in a creative manner, because they're going to surprise you with the amount that they are capable of. You know how when the bus gets super cramped and everyone's on top of each other? You know, it's kind of uncomfortable, but then you kind of like get like a new perspective almost. So this woman was standing over me and her scarf was so bright, and I just was like, oh my God, like that yellow is so yellow. And it just kind of like, it stuck in my head and was inspired by that color, just the color. And I put that in the painting, and then ended up actually using a self-portrait, like a picture of myself in place of that, because I was like relating to that moment more personally. Some of this work is found items, and some of it is stuff that I've made previously. This actually is from a broken plate from my friend's engagement. It's a customary thing to break a plate. I just went to that last week, and I took a piece, and that becomes part of my work, is part of my personal life. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about how process influences your work?
My process is about finding things, putting them together, sewing them, drilling them, pushing them. You know, things break, I'll break things, you know, and then how to put it together in a way that feels good. It's not necessarily about the product. It's about, you know, that experience of like finding things and putting them in places that fit or don't fit, or, you know.
I have a lot of complicated feelings about the mental health system and how the diagnoses are kind of divided into these arbitrary categories. All of these things exist on a spectrum. I feel like we exist in a society that expects people to behave in certain ways and to be able to function in certain ways, and that these different disability diagnoses are different ways of kind of categorizing the way that people are unable to meet society's expectations.
Dyslexia is different for everyone. Like most disabilities, dyslexia occurs on a spectrum. But what it means to me and how it affects my life is I have a lot of trouble with spelling, writing out words, reading words sometimes, and I'll also have trouble like speaking in different points in time, but that's essentially the kind of gist of what it is for me and how it affects my everyday life.
I went to a very academic school, very college prep school.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't a lot of people like me that were artists. And so especially people that didn't understand that I had, especially after the concussion, that I had memory issues or even just the reading disability, I did get bullied.
It especially is hard for me whenever I write something and I have an idea of what it is in my head and I give it to someone else and they're like, what does this mean?
Part of what it means to be disabled in society is for things to be more difficult, like particularly in the realm of music. I'm not sure, like there's definitely times where I've been having a really hard time and just not able to focus, not able to concentrate, or caught in intrusive thought spirals and just having like a hard time doing anything productive. And there's some times where I really want to be producing more music than I am actually able to at the time.
If I'm not interested in a subject, I will just abandon it because it's hard for me to focus for long periods of time. And so if I'm not interested in it, I can't focus on it, and then I'll just never finish it. Sometimes if I'm really stressed out about something or my anxiety is super high that day, even though I love art and it's really helpful for my ADD, it can be hard for me to, sit in class for 3 hours when you have an exam the next morning that you need to study for. So can be difficult then a little bit, because then I'm just not focused at all and will sit there and do nothing. But for the most part, I'd say it's more of a positive impact.
For a very long time, I wouldn't talk about it. I was super embarrassed, but feeling like art was something that I could take a hold of and make my own, and claim that as part of my identity that kind of went along with being dyslexic. I think it made me more comfortable and realizing that I had dyslexia. When I was younger, to improve my spelling and to improve my the drive to write and read, my mom had us write letters back and forth to each other just so I could practice writing, because my spelling was really bad. And I pulled them out and I looked at how awful my spelling was, and so I wrote down a bunch of those words. And so that's what you see here, really bad.
That's so fascinating.
Spelling. So really spelled R-I-L-L-Y, schools spelled S-K-O-L-L, please spelled P-L-E-S, and so on. And I mean, my spelling has definitely improved, but it's still something that I'm self-conscious about, like if I'm writing something down.
This is so cool. I would never have thought of doing that. And it's interesting. So you felt like, I guess, your mother's been a pretty good influence.
Yeah, she's been such a great advocate for me, and she's taught me that it's important for me to become my own advocate as well.
Yeah.
At some point she was like, I'm pulling back, you have to talk to your teachers, and I'm really glad she did. Like I made a piece a while ago when I thought my aunt might have cancer, and it was in response to that. So if there's something emotional going on in my life, a lot of times that will influence what I create or the medium I use. In a very stressful time, senior year, writing college applications, everything like that, this was sort of a stress relief for me. So that's how it's sort of connected in a more distant way than the other piece.
A lot of painting and drawing classes are like, hey, one of your projects is a self-portrait. And so one of those is, one of the ones that I'm going to be working on is going to have my old personalities before my concussion in little bubbles. And then me in the background with what I would consider just color on my hands and on my face. A lot of my work is still influenced from like what I used to want to do, and so I have a lot of nature and particularly water or ocean scenes in my pieces because I was going to work with dolphins. I was going to be a marine biologist, and so one of the little spheres in this piece is me as wearing a lab coat, but also like having like diagrams, and then there's another bubble where it's me with like in water with animals, and another one which I used to be a very formal and closed off person before the concussion, so it's me in a long dress and pinned up hair, and the process of choosing them was just really like what were like big things that that I remember from back then. This is one of the pieces that's probably most directly inspired by my disability with memory, is that originally it started out as just leaves because I love autumn, and I had taken a photograph and I was like, I wonder how that would come out as a painting. And then I came back, and before I added all the color, I kind of forgot. I remembered it was leaves, but I forgot where the background was actually going with it. And so I was like, you know what? Kind of looks like hair. It's going to be a portrait. The world is complicated and scary and loud. And I think that art helps me simplify it and enjoy it more because I can process it more easily.
Finding community is really important, even if it's not in person. Like a lot of the community that I have found has been on the internet. Just finding people with similar interests and similar passions who will listen to your work or appreciate what you do and give you feedback, and just kind of having people of a similar experience who can go, yeah, I understand how hard it was, how much effort you had to put into that, and can kind of share in that experience with you.
It's always really good to find other people with disabilities around you, just because a lot of the time it's not super obvious. And I know most of the people we spoke to had like mental illness or like intellectual or learning disabilities. And those are not things that you necessarily can see on someone's face or body. So it's really important to be talking to other people about this stuff. And you find out that a lot of the people around you who maybe you even already knew are also like struggling with or living with something that you have in common with them. So I think it's really good to know that there are other people on campus who you can talk to about this stuff and who are kind of dealing with it and making art about it.
It's a great outlet for me to just sort of express myself. I'm not a super talkative person. I'm definitely an introvert. I'm that INFJ personality type. So it's definitely a way that I can, like, I use very bright colors and stuff, and people usually are like, oh, you did that? Wow. Because it's just a different side of my personality that I don't often show to people just day to day.
For me, you can't have one without the other, and I wouldn't be the same person I am today. I wouldn't be the same artist if I didn't have my disability. And so that's sort of how I've come to terms with it, and I'm grateful that I have it at this point.
It is very okay to let your disability influence what you're making.
When making art, this is from your very unique and individualistic point of view. So when whatever art you make, whatever you put out there, like that is yours, and like to be proud of that because no one else is making that.
In the ways that you're unique, that makes you the best artist you could be, and that even if someone has problems they push up against, I really truly believe that inside they have something that's like shining, that's different, and that like in art, you just have to keep on trying and keep on trying new things and keep on making work in order to be an artist is to challenge that and to not give up and to not like look at your work and say I can't because I think that from the artists that I've seen and the people that I've seen, that if you have an instinct to create work, go with that and just don't stop.
So Ray and I had a really, really great time filming this. We're really glad to have had this opportunity to really just meet interesting, fascinating people who have found a way to not only cope but to achieve with their disabilities in the art, in both art and in their daily lives, day by day.